Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us here on Morning at NTV. Time now for the Kickstarter, and we're going to be looking at the NRM primaries. That is the election across the country where the governing party will be deciding on flag bearers for the 2026 general election. Now, according to the party's Electoral Commission chairperson, Tanga Odoi, voting is expected to begin as early as 10 a.m. and that will be done as the officials read the registers, and if anyone is not in the register, then you will have no part, especially in the voting process. As we speak now, reports indicate that many areas received voting materials, especially the ones that will be used to ensure that those that will be lining up against their preferred candidates. Here I can see the Daily Monitor's Abube Kaluboa brought us pictures of workers loading some materials into trucks. That is at the NRM Secretariat. There's a lot to look out for, but a total of 146 slots are available for women representatives, 353 direct constituency seats, and about 2,000 plus candidates vying for those. It means, as we said earlier in our press review, at least 1,500, not 500 but 50 candidates will be losers at the end of the day. Now, that is where the tension comes. The Electoral Commission chairperson, that is Tanga Odoi, says whoever loses, please accept the loss. And then, as the party constitution stipulates, do not seek to run as an independent. If you do, there is disciplinary action awaiting you, including a possible expulsion from the party. That alone makes the stakes high in as far as these primaries are concerned. We also know the hotspots in Sembabule. There is a lot that is going on as the retired Major Rashande seeks to uproot the veteran representative there, Remiyaga Sechkubo. We'll be having perspective on all these aspects as they roll out. On set, I'm joined by Brenda Praf Nema. She's the Machinde East OC5 Lord Woman Councillor aspirant. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Mr. Joseph Ochieno. He's an UPC ideologue, and many times reminds the courts that he's the undeclared president of the Uganda People's Congress. He's also a seasoned political commentator, always coming through with very pinpoint analysis as well as assessment of events, not only in Uganda, but indeed across the region and the world. You're welcome to Morning at NTV.
Pleasure to be here.
We're also joined by Ivan Cheinei. Ivan Cheinei is seeking the slot in Nakasongola County to represent that area on the Noop ticket, if I'm not mistaken. But there's something iconic about Mr. Ivan Cheinei. You're the voice behind the flagship Zungulu on NTV.
Yes.
Let's begin with that. What do we expect tomorrow? It should be something that your team is on the ground trying to get for us, especially given the frenzy and the drama.
Yes, of course. Every Ugandan, being a top follower of Zungulu, is waiting for the fracas that would have happened during the day. We know a lot is going to happen.
That's right.
Friday will be, every Ugandan's eye will be watching to see what has really happened. It's going to be fun as usual.
Okay.
You're not praying for a fracas, are you?
It is going to happen. It's evidence.
By design, he has to pray for fracas. That is part of the job.
If I don't pray, every funny and every disturbing event expected tomorrow
in Zungulu.
Because the NRM primaries are going to make people cry.
Wow.
And that's what
interesting there.
It will also make people happy.
It also make
Some
people
families
happy.
will be happy because their members will have made it.
In a way,
Joy, bittersweet.
All right, bittersweet. A lady and Mr. Cheinei, allow me begin of this conversation with Mr. Joseph Ochieno for a very fair and balanced look at things here. as a seasoned political commentator, the NRM primaries are effectively a litmus test as we prepare for the 2026 general election. First, on account of the fact that the NRM is the governing party, it enjoys unlimited, sometimes, according to some circles, resource envelope in order to conduct this massive exercise. It gives us an idea of how government and the state might conduct the polls in 2026. The other thing is that it also has the numbers as the leading political party in the country. So we must pay attention to how things roll out. What is your take?
I think in a way it's a fair observation. My fantastic sister here was just saying, reminding us, boastingly but in a good way for our organization, that they have the numbers, and you fairly stated that all the 146 women parliamentary seats, they've got candidates. To be fair, I don't know the largest currently in Parliament, the opposition political party, NUP. I don't know how many seats they will be fronting candidates, possibly unlikely all as NRM. So from that perspective, yes. And of course with the numbers in Parliament. But that said, I think the issue is the fact that if we saw what happened in the last election, 2021, meaning general elections, and this is primarily primaries, and indeed, as you suggested, you talk about our good friend Sechikubo, whom you even accuse of being a veteran, in a good way, of course. So the young Sechikubo facing a fairly elderly person who should ideally be retiring, which would not be a problem. But if you get the tone of this conversation, and if you consider that people have already, quote, died, and if, from my perspective, I already know that various security agencies are already generally on high alert. This is breaking news.
That is right.
From a perspective of what might happen. And this is primaries of a governing political organization that by and large should be in charge. It tells you how serious and how seriously it is being taken. I came from the East the other day, and mixed with a predominant presence, and everyone guys will be happy to hear that, of posters of candidates, which you could say dominates, but of course it's partly because of primaries, not necessarily popularity, you know. But then side by side with that, you see how young people are already substantially, almost angrily agitated, and agitated as part of an internal, ideally democratic process. It makes it scary. So if this happens, and it's very important that you possibly fuel us up here tomorrow, or perhaps after tomorrow, we see what happens, because maybe it's too early days. We don't want to basically prescribe a crude experience. This is the litmus test, as you said. So if it can happen in primaries, what is going to happen in the general elections, where different competing political parties are, when this is basically merely a family affair? Quickly, the idea of this rather backward process of lining behind candidates, in my opinion, is crude. And whatever arguments they made, I think it's outdated, and it could happen. But if only politics had not been substantially militarized, substantially monetized, substantially brutalized, that even an average constituency in Bosolwe is you either give it to me or you're my enemy. And if I gave you the other 5,000 Uganda shillings and
I don't see you behind
and you don't deliver, it's a problem. When I first participated in elections in 2006, and at the end of my exile, I was in Nagongera, and I saw how boys in bicycles would ferry women, old women, and push them down there. And these women were basically traumatized in fear, because they think that there's some machine from heaven which is observing that they brought salt in my home the other day, but if I don't do this, you know. So it's very unfortunate. But whatever the case, how these guys handle it is important. And then finally, whatever the outcomes, how the internal process of NRA deals with the disputes is going to be very important. Not necessarily simply that, well, you know, you've lost please do not stand as an independent. Naturally, that's actually what should be happening democratically, and I would like to see that happen in every political party anyway. Because if you stand as an independent, you basically effectively broken a major party rule. But since many of these guys don't know internal constitutionalism, as you can see, how they fumble with the national constitutionalism, it's not surprising. But generally shouldn't be that. The issue then is, what do you do with people who are generally dissatisfied? For those of us in the other camps, will be very happy looking forward and waiting, and all those who are dissatisfied join Uganda People's Congress and then we push.
Interesting there. Of course, the NRM has given 5 days to file poll disputes for those that will lose
That's
today.
important, yes.
And it's very, very important that people pay attention to that. Let me go to Madame Brenda. The national resistance movement over the last few weeks has intensified preparations for these particular primaries. Tanga Odoi, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission within the party himself, has been out and about, very vocal, and in the newspapers and before the cameras, trying to drum awareness, sensitization, in order to avoid things going bad. Are you confident this is going to be pulled off?
Yeah, actually, what is on ground is actually different from what people are painting it to be. Today morning I woke up, I left people ready to line up in my community and ready to have their voice heard, ready to make their choice and make their vote. And also I believe the lining up is a fair way to have people make their decision. It's not under duress that people go onto those lines. It's because they want to make their vote. And the ballot system is not either unflawed as well, because I believe someone who stands in your back will tick you in the ballot as well. And I believe it is the safest way to have leaders that we trust. It's the safest way to have people have their voices, have their leaders that are elected by them democratically. And I still support it because I think it is the best way in our communities for people to say, we do not want this, we want this person, we want this kind of representation. And I think I support it fully because it helps us as a party to grow stronger, cohesion, and also for us to know among the people we have brought who is the person that has the support, because these campaigns are done from grassroots. We do the mobilization from down, every door to door, and like they said, our party has resources, we're using our own resources. The government is not funding us to do the primaries. Our own resources. Yes. So it is something we do because we love our party or our communities that we come from. And majorly this time around, NRM is focusing on poverty eradication and better services for our communities. So I believe it's going to be a very peaceful election. I believe the best leaders are going to be voted. I believe it is a mirror of who is going to be in parliament or in these local councils in the election, because NRM is the only party that holds primaries that are fair and free. So I'm hoping for the best, and it's going to be a peaceful election.
Interesting there. Mr. Ivan Cheine, when Madame Brenda Nema says NRM is the only party that holds the free and fair primaries, I'm sure in your mind you're like, come on, I think we can also pull it off. But looking at it from the National Unity Platform point of view, I think you are very keen and eagle-eyed right now on how the NRM conducts itself today. It should be something that offers you an opportunity to understand the realities that you might be facing yourselves when you undertake similar primaries or engage in the general election in January.
Well, I need to first communicate to the viewers that I am also the no candidate for Nakasongola. You did mention that.
I said right at the beginning.
I was a former flag bearer even in the last contest. I'm coming back for a second contest for the same position.
Another go.
My sister here has just made me laugh when she said that NRM has internal democracy when we have seen people burning cars, destroying motorcycles. We have had death in these primaries, something that we would not have expected because it's not a do or die. NRM primaries, like we have all observed across the country, people have actually painted a picture that if it is not winning the position, they will not survive. These are people who have served in public offices.
That's right.
They have amassed illegal wealth. These are people who have been in the military. They have all the army behind them. These people are acting with a lot of impunity in the primaries. Actually, if the state was so serious with these culprits, we would have seen arrests. There's no way you see someone coming with military with nothing like shame, orders military to come and brutalize people because of just a small contest as a member of parliament or the flag bearer. Coming to the question of NOP, we cannot behave the same way as NRM is behaving. One, the secretariat has put a system where members contesting in the same position, like more than one, they harmonize. They call you, give you a chance. You weigh out yourselves and see that as far as we are 6 candidates on this position, this one stands to be the most popular or is the most qualified before we can go in violence. I think we have not seen any violent act in NOP primaries. Secondly, NOP doesn't have the muscle of money that NRM has. NRM, just with their long hand, goes to state coffers, gets any amount unaccounted for, and arranges whatever style of elections that they want. But NOP, the fact that we don't have sponsorship like as big as for NRM, we try as much as possible to work in the smallest system of not spending so much. We have just held a fundraiser. We're only looking at 9 billion shillings for all the elections, the general election. So right now we cannot waste a lot of money in the primaries. And look at all people who are contesting. These are people who have served in parliament for over 30 years. Someone comes and spends 1 billion shillings just in the primaries, and quite disappointing. All the 4 years, you don't see that amount of money being spent in the constituency. If Ugandans can critically observe, 4 years, you never see all those huge government vehicles coming to those rural areas. Just because of NRM primaries, about 6 months to the general elections, 1 billion shillings is spent in the constituency. You ask even where that money comes from, or even want to see how it is reflected on ground. You can't see it. You see a rural constituency with no clean water, but candidates pouring billions, hiring crowds, hiring musicians, bringing a huge procession just to scare off the villagers, giving salt, small pieces of soap. That money would have better be sponsoring on putting
the
clean water
delivery.
on service delivery.
Yeah.
How you look at a district with no proper health care, but spending 2 billion on posters, entertainment, things that don't resonate to what the community wants. It is quite disappointing. And when you observe what is going to happen today, you're going to see if someone would do a proper analysis of how much money has been spent on primaries, you'll be disappointed and you'll feel too much anger. Billions and billions are going to be spent on such primaries, and Ugandans generally, they will not receive what is required, what is expected of such leaders.
I think Mr. Chaine does bring to the fore something that ought to be of greater significance to the country as a whole, that electioneering and campaign processes are far more costly than service delivery provision. I mean, you talk about constituency. Let's take, for example, as far as Zombo. You know, for 5 years of a tenure of government and an MP, the amount of money spent in the electioneering process is much more than what has gone into service delivery. I think that's a broader conversation, and Morning at NTV for today cannot even attempt to bring that into perspective. But allow me focus entirely on the primaries today and exactly how they will pan out and what will happen maybe at 4 p.m. or even tomorrow. We are seeing, you talked about the spates of violence, no doubt. violence can happen, even if it's NUP, DP, or JEMA. But many people tend to say the intensity of violence is higher when the NRM is involved. And now that is a very disturbing reputation to fight off. The use of the military, especially, for example, in Sembabule. How can the communities themselves today work towards ensuring that the least spates of violence occur? You've already questioned the universal suffrage lining up. It causes tensions. Wife could line up behind, might not line up behind the husband. Son might not line up behind father. And that causes tension later at home. But how best can this be fought off? Just take us through your perspective. You're seeking to be woman Lord Councillor and at LC5. I don't know whether in the run-up to these primaries, those concerns were addressed in the sensitization drives.
Thank you. First of all, when you talk about violence and riots, these are isolated incidents. And also in the previous election, this happened, and the perpetrators were actually opposition. In the previous election, it was NUP scaring us, don't vote, don't do this, don't get out of your house, don't. Now that it is being done to them, it is a problem. But they're the ones who started. Shoot them when you see them, do this. So it's just when people get it. No, people, there were incidents, videos were running around. When you find an NRM person, take them out of the house, it was being done by them. But now that people have learned to give them a taste of their own medicine, it's becoming...
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's the riots still happen. Even at home we have violence, even in communities. It's a competition for the best person to win. The party has done its part. They have sensitized the masses. They have done selections of the candidates who are eligible through the criteria based on the academic requirements, based on the nationality, on the age. All of that has been done to ensure that the candidates who are in this race are fit to be in this race. And all those processes lead to today or to the election that we're going into. So the sensitization has been done. It is not a do or die, but I think people take it to another level with the passion they have for their candidate or for their party.
Joseph disagrees. And Joseph, I would also love to make it clear. You expressed dismay at people lining up behind the candidates. When you look at the realities of our social superstructure, it is an option that is either the more viable as opposed to the resources that would go into, for example, ballot papers for each constituency. These, remember, are primaries that are almost taking on a national dimension. Because when I look at the map of Uganda, today the Daily Monitor has it, and it's virtually yellow. That is a national dimension. Those are resources. So to choose to line up behind is something that works well in halting the wastage.
I think much earlier, including before we came on air, I was suggesting that Mr. Museveni might be very excited by the comments, the generous observations we're trying to make, which might give him credit. But if you take that line, I think it would put the guy on the defensive and put NRM very badly on the defensive. Look, after 40 years, it would be an indictment, a ring indictment on what NRM has injected on our social fabrics, injected on our economic fabrics, injected on our political fabrics. And after 40 years, and if you consider the grievances that took NRM to the bush, and these guys came to power in 1986, there is no way in which we wouldn't have a culture of polity today in which internal political processes would weed out our people. Their candidates in NRM cannot get out of their cars. One of the reasons why that is happening is about politics of patronage, politics of communities confined, politics of absence of leadership from the top. I have a privilege of representing the oldest political party, the most experienced political party, and I believe the most competent constitutionally and democratically political party in this country. But I also have experience, as you're generous to me, in terms of my other experiences elsewhere. Election processes, including internal election processes. I have participated and advised, but I've participated in elections elsewhere, where you see parliamentary candidates being elected at their local town halls. you know, it doesn't hit a headline down the road. Now, that's a system that NRM does not put. I'll give that the usual places, the UK, you know, today. That is absent there. If you did lining up, possibly it would work. But if you did lining up when I was starting primary school at St. Joseph's in Nagongra Boys, you know, in the 70s, possibly it would make sense that elders would be down there and, you know, say, oh, young man, don't misbehave. A fantastic retired national citizen, Joel Luweero, I mentioned him, former Minister of Commerce, once told me that, look, Joseph, elders stand up in 1980 and say, look, you know, elections are taking place, we want you to be the candidate. That is no longer what we are facing today. So the once political parties were banned, politics militarized, personal merit politics brought in, and a huge amount of resource money is brought in, and now element of security and patronage and self-entitlement. That process simply just doesn't work. It doesn't work because the citizens themselves wouldn't do. But again, you talked about this injection of resources down there. When you go around, and I've been to Zombo, Zombo is a terrible example. You go across Zombo with respect and without prejudice. You genuinely see absence of life. And you simply see absence of government. And then you see the billions given to top political leaders playing, including their legislators. 100 million shillings in Zombo. 100 million shillings in Zombo would do a huge amount of money to change lives down there. It's non-existent. Part of this then, that's why I say it is, in 1984, Milton Obote told the UPC parliamentary group that, you know, we are dealing with these NRM guys in the bush, and we're going to have elections next year anyway. Unfortunately, of course, it didn't happen. You know, but look, when it comes, you guys must be prepared to take your balance sheet to the electorate, and don't come crying to me. You know, balance sheet to the electorate. The absence of balance sheet means that the average citizen from Liantonde, the average citizen from maybe Namatala, you know, that's all they know. And so an opportunity for them to get a few thousand Uganda shillings, they'll take. And it's not surprising, therefore, that I also know candidates apparently who make it the cheaper way, who give 100,000 shillings to quote an agent to deliver a particular area. So this guy has got a job to do to deliver an outcome in terms of numbers. So they're prepared to fight for it. Finally, in 2011, a long time ago, in then West Budama North, and I keep on talking about this again and again and again, not for any particular bad reason for my brother in Foxroa and then late William Okechukwu. I had to come on television and other places and go to communities to tell young people, please, don't kill yourselves, don't break yourselves. And I told William, not this way. Fox, not this way. Why? Because of this process. It has now become worse. And my quick point is, whatever happens today, particularly young Ugandans, don't be used by individuals whose agenda is whatever they're giving you, whose agenda is basically seeking to go to the National Assembly predominantly, when in reality none of them is actually telling you how they're going to change your lives, change the lives of the communities, and change possibilities for your future.
All right, thank you very much, Joseph Otieno, for that. I'll be coming to Ivan Choine very shortly, but let's go live to our man on the ground, Juma Kiria, who is the very first to start off what will be a day of commentary, as well as on location reports as far as these primaries are concerned. Good morning, Juma. Where are you coming to us live from?
That is Sembabule district. This is Maogola North, if you're familiar with this place, Maogola North constituency. This town today is calm because one of the contenders, that is Shatis Musherure, the current member of parliament, decided to withdraw from the current race of the primaries, and so she was contesting against Sodo, and those were the main rivals here. But today the town is calm because the challenge is a bit low, and so the elections here are going to be very calm. And the town itself is calm. There's not a lot of security deployment. From here, we're going to head to Remiaga County, where the contest is a bit high, and there are 5 contestants in this Remiaga County race for NRM primaries. That is Theodore Sechkubo, Emmanuel Rashande, Joy Kabasi, and 2 others. But that's where the major contention has been, and that's where violence has been erupting during the canvassing of votes for primaries. And so that's where we shall be heading. But as of yesterday, deployment was high. Police are deployed, anti-riot police, soldiers, Uganda prisons in Remiaga to ensure that the elections here move smoothly. And so the situation is not any different from that of yesterday. But however, security officials here say that they are going to do everything possible to ensure that violences that have been exhibited during the canvassing of votes do not repeat as happening here. And so that is what they are saying. But this morning we were at the NRM offices where the polling materials arrived last night, and so they were dispatched. They seem to be on standby to handle other issues, and so that is the situation here in Sembabule. Sembabule is made up of 5 constituencies. That is the constituency of the district woman MP. The race is majorly between the current woman member of parliament and another person. But there is also Maogola West, Maogola South, Maogola North, and Remiaga County. And so that is the situation here. People who are familiar with this place, they will tell you that looking for votes here in Sembabule is not been easy, and so people are a bit scared of what could be coming. But on top of that, security says they are in charge of the situation and they don't expect anything that will go wrong today. Elections in this place are likely to start at about 10. They will start by teaching people on how to conduct these elections. Remember, these are elections of lining behind candidates or contenders. And then from there, they will read members from the registers who are supposed to vote. The Electoral Commission says that whoever is not in the register will not be able to vote. And so from there, they will line up behind their candidates. And then they expect by 2, this process should be done. And then results will be transported to the district headquarters where they will be announcing the final winners. So, Chris, that's the situation here. I am Juma Kiria. Let me come back to the studios.
Coming to us live from Sembabule, he says that that particular place where he is right now is calm on account of the fact that the candidate who was widely thought to offer a contest to Sodo being the brother to the president, chose to go into a deal, and of course, as things have happened, it's the reason as to why you see there is calm there. But don't be deceived, there are other constituencies, and he'll be going there very shortly, from where we shall of course be receiving other reports. Take note that the team is on ground, and of course we shall also be bringing you other on location reports as and when the live feeds come through. But one of the concerns there, and let me begin with Ivan as I had promised before we went to Juma Kiria, is the fact that they'll be reading voters from the register. It's a long, tedious process. Any one parish or voting area could have so many voters, to the extent that reading out their names and then the process of voting begins, well, that could be executed. But the problem is, if one person who is convinced they should be on the register is not read, and meaning they cannot line behind anybody else, it's a massive logistical issue for the military and the police to be able to come through. But I know that is something that can be sorted out. Please do prepare your submission again. Let me go to Ivan Kamoga. Ivan Kamoga is also standing by with the very latest from the ground. Good morning, Ivan. Habert, rather.
Good morning, Chris.
Yes, take it on.
Yes, I am coming to you live from Luweero. This is the political maker for the NRM. And as you know, today we are heading to the party primaries. This area is so historical to the party, but we are not going to go into history now. We are going to look at how this party, especially the people of Luweero, are preparing for the elections. With me is the new registrar for the NRM for Luweero district. He's been appointed to the office barely a week ago, and he's ready to take on the mantle to steer the elections for today. I want to speak to him to see his readiness to steer this region, this district, into the party elections. Good morning with me, Mr. Basajja. Yes, welcome at NTV.
NTV TV. How are you?
We are okay.
Well done.
So you're barely a week in the office. How
That's
ready
very
are
right.
you to take on the mantle to steer up the elections today?
In the first place, I want to thank the Almighty Allah for what I am today. And by the name of
You first the
Usmani Lubega, the new NRM election officer, Luweero district. I want to bring awareness to the district of Luweero that as NRM office, we have made proper arrangements to see to it that elections are properly carried on. We have received each and everything that is required to make us have a successful elections. Yesterday, we had a training of all the stakeholders, the village registrars, the parish registrars, the sub-county registrars, and we gave them all the materials which are required to conduct the exercise successfully.
So we've had areas where there's been a contention, so much contention, especially in the Katikamu North, where Honorable Gaddafi Nasulu is contesting against the former US5 chairperson, that's Ronald Ndaula. And recently, Ronald Ndaula indicated that he had bowed out from the joint campaigns. What does this indicate as we head to the elections today? Won't we have some issues to do with violence where they have hired vigilante groups to be manning their votes?
Thank you very much for the question posed. What I can say is that the competition between Murangira Ndaula and the Honorable Nasuru Gaddafi, as far as Katikamu North constituency is concerned, is high. But it is my simple appeal to the two contestants in the Katikamu North, Katikamu South as well, that we are children of the same house. It is the Almighty Allah who decides a leader. And they must know that in between the competitors, there must be a loser and a winner. Politics is like a football match. For example, if Arsenal is playing with the Man U, there must be a winner and a loser. And in case one who comes up the winner should not feel proud, because he still needs the supporters of the loser to support him against the other contestants in the National Electoral Commission. The same way, we have a high competition in Katikamu South between Honorable Magala, Haji Kalume, Abubakari, there is Mugisha, Marvin. At least the competition is stiff with the three matches. They are four contestants for the postal flag bearer in Katikamu South constituency.
So has all the voting materials been dispatched to the respective electoral areas?
That is very true. And we want to thank the NRM Secretariat for the proper arrangements made this time around, because all the necessary materials have been delivered to the points of the district headquarters the way they are supposed to be delivered. And I want to assure peace, because we are in touch with the security organs in Luweero, and I want to promise the candidates that they are to have a free and fair elections this time around.
Kino mbadde nsaba okikkaatirize mu Luganda ensonga y'eggaali baalabula abakandidates bano nti balina eggaali ze batambula nazo abavubuka be bagamba nti bakuuma kalulu kaabwe naye oluusi batera okuvaako okukola obufuyo oba okuleeta obuvuyo mu kulonda. Ensonga eno yongera ogikkaatiriza mu Luganda ng'obalabula kuba ne Tango Doi chairperson w'akakiiko k'ebyokulonda yavuddeyo n'alabula ku nsonga ez'emivuyo oba effujjo mu kalulu kano.
Okusooka njagala okwebaza abamawulire ba NTV olw'okututuusangako obuweereza obulungi mu buli kadde. Nga registrar wa NRM wa Luweero district omupya, okusooka njagala okusaba nga nkubira bannabyabufuzi omulanga ogutakungula bakome ku bawagizi baabwe, kubanga akalulu bunaagenda okuwungeera oba okukyenkya ku makya ku Lwokutaano nga buli muntu amaze okumanya bw'ayimiridde. Awangudde anaaba awangudde, ne gwe banaaba bawangudde banaaba bamukoze eki bamuwangudde. N'olwekyo abawagizi saagala bayitewo nnyo, kubanga kiyinza okubaviiramu okufiirwa obulamu. Mu ngeri y'emu njagala okukubiriza abalondesa abagenda okulondesa oba emiruka n'abaamagombolola obutazannyira mu kalulu ka kandidate yenna yeesimbyewo, kubanga abeesimbyewo batutta obudde bungi, bateesemu ssente, bateesemu ebiseera nga balina ebiruubirirwa. N'olwekyo omuntu anaagezaako okwenyigira mu kubba akalulu, ekyo ekinaamutuukako kijja kuba kikyenga ye. Naye nga Uthmani registrar omupya njagala okusuubiza n'okukakasa abeesimbyewo nti bagenda kufuna akalulu ak'amazima n'obwenkanya, buli muntu akkirize nti anaabawangudde mu butuufu, n'anaabawanguddwa mu butuufu.
tulina polling stations meka era tusuubire nti okulonda nga bwe batugambye nti kuva ssaawa 4 paka 8 abantu bagenda kuba bayimiridde mu layini okuva ssaawa 4 paka 8 bwe banaabalira akalulu.
Okuva ku ssaawa 3 ez'okumakya abalonzi tubasuubira okubeera nga bagenze mu bifo abalonderwa. Omulondesa ku ssaawa 5 agenda kutandika okusoma amannya agali mu kitabo kya register kye tuyita yellow book. Ku ssaawa 6 ebifaananyi by'abeesimbyewo bigenda kuba biteekebwa ku polling stations era omulondesa alangirire nti ekifo ky'omubaka katugeze mu katekamu north kuliko Mulangira Ndawula ekifaananyi kye kino, kuliko Haji Gaddafi Nasula ekifaananyi kye kino, kuliko Mayumbu Kenya Michael ekifaananyi kye kino. Olw'okubeera nti twaleese enkola nti abagenda okulonda bagenda kubeera nga bali mu kagwa akasibiddwa obulungi n'ebifande bye bigenda okubeera. Abaana batali mu register tubasaba babeere meters 10 okuva awalonderwa n'okwewala okubeera nti baleeta obuvuyo. Kakati mu mbeera eyo omulondesa ajja kulangirira nti abawagizi buli muntu genda ku candidate wo gw'okola ki gw'owagira basimbe layini okubala obululu kugende mu maaso. Abalondesa batabasomesezza nti abala akalulu ng'ayogerera waggulu abantu basobole okuwulira omuwendo gw'obululu candidate we gw'awagira bw'aba akoze eki bw'aba afunye. Njagala okutegeeza nti zinagenda okuwera essaawa 8 ogw'emisana wonna mu Luweero okulonda kujja kuba kuwedde kubanga sisuubirayo mbeera egenda kutaataaganya ekyali baddewo oba oliawo bintu kukeerewa. Naye tusaba Katonda tuwa obudde obulungi buleme kubeeramu nkuba. Nsuubira okulonda okw'emirembe n'obwenkanya mu Luweero omulundi guno nga ndi mupya mu woofiisi naye ebyokulonda.
Tulina ebyalo 627
tulina ebyalo 624 mu Luweero disitulikiti n'emiruka 96. The polling station ze tulina kubanga tugenda kulondera ku byalo byaffe nga enkola y'ekibiina kyaffe kya NRM obweri.
Tulaba nga omulundi oguwedde NRM yafiirwa ebifo byonna ebine ebyabaka ba Parliament. Tulowooza nti ku luno akalu ke tugendamu muli ready okulaba nti mu bouncing back okweddiza Mecca kuba kati simanyi oba ekyali Mecca nga NUP egifuga.
Njagala kutegeeza omusenze ow'ekiseera takuganda kubeera nannyinimu. NRM ye maama wa Luweero ye maama wa Uganda. Okubeera kwa NUP nti yawangula ebifo eby'omulundi oguwedde tekigenda kubeera kya lubeerera. NRM ng'ekibiina tweyongedde okweteekateeka n'okubaako ebintu bye twongedde okukola okwongera okunyweza abantu baffe. Era njagala kutegeeza mu njogera ennyangu ng'ennaku zino bweri nti NRM omulundi guno buli agenda okukwata fulaaga ku mutendera kwali aba NUP aba-FDC n'ebibiina ebirala ba independent beteeketeeke okubayisaamu eggaali kubanga obuwanguzi tubulina okusinziira ku nteekateeka gye tukoze n'okweteekateeka kutongedde okweteekateeka nga twenyweza n'obuweereza eri abantu baffe.
Weewaawo tukweyanziza Sebuka tukute ogende maaso n'emirimu kuba tukimanyi nti nno olunaku luli so busy gy'oli.
Nange neeyanziza.
Weewaawo, so this is the new registrar for the NRM party and he has declared that the hope to rebounce back and take on the 4 positions for the members of parliament. But I want to tell you briefly about which candidates do we have today that are vying for the party ticket to contest for these positions. In Luweero Woman MP race, we have 4 candidates, and that is Sise Mulondo, Farida Nakalawa, Agnes Chirabo Nantongo, and Jacqueline Subi. We will need 1 person to take the flag for the party. And for Katekamus North, we have Gaddafi Nasuru, we have Ronald Ndawula, and Paul Michael Bukenya. Those are 3 people who are contesting for this seat, which is incumbently held by NUP, and the MP who is holding this seat is Dennis Sekabira. For the Katekamu South seat, there are also 4 candidates, and these include Sulaitin Subuga, Marvin Mugisha, Patricia Magala, and Abubeka Karume. And for Bamunanika, there are also 3 contestants. That's Elizabeth Salabwa Aine, Robert Chini, and Ali Sechanzi Ndawula. These are the people who are vying for the 4 tickets for the party in this area, which is politically known as the political maker for the NRM. We wait to see what will happen in the hours to come as the people will be lining up to vote for their favorite candidates. But as has hinted on, they expect that NRM is going to win massively and then be able to reclaim this region where the war that brought in this government started. I want to come back to you in the studio. I am Herbert Kamoga here in Luweero district. We shall be following up all the updates and we will be giving you everything that happens here as we head to the elections.
All right, thank you very much. Herbert Kamoga coming to us live from Luweero, the political mecca for the national resistance movement. For the uninitiated into that saying, it's down to the fact that the guerrilla war that began in 1981 and ended with the capture of power in 1986 by the NRA, then led by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who is still the president, is where everything happened. So the significance cannot be understated, and Herbert Kamoga does bring that aspect out very, very ably. Joseph Forteno, you'll be submitting on that part, the political maker, and the fact that the NRM primaries could cast a shadow on that particular phrase. But let me go to Ivan, as I had promised earlier. There was tension about the register and how things might turn out in case one is not on the register, despite being confident that they are, especially in the run-up to the press time yesterday.
Yes, Chris, before we went for the break, my sister here had peddled some lies that I wanted to dismiss.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, she came out and said NOP are violent, but I want her to remind the country at large, when did NOP ever abduct NRM followers? But NRM occasionally is always kidnapping NOP people. When did NOP shoot NRM people? It's the NRM that is shooting NOP people, and evidence is always shown on the media. We have never seen NOP having a basement, but media was awash when someone was confidently and shamelessly posting on his handles that he has abducted someone and actually torturing him, and we saw the person coming to the court limping. So we cannot sit here and
by the way, for clarity purposes,
yes,
the National Resistance Movement did not abduct Eddie Mutwe.
Thank you.
Okay.
But we have seen PLOU, the head of PLOU is assimilated in NRM. We cannot differentiate between PLOU and NRM.
Maybe you should have made that clear. Differentiating is something that another person can grapple
But we
with.
know the person who did that. To go back to the question of NRM register, it is evident that NRM always gets their people and teaches them how to lie. Let me remind you, just on the recent by-election of Kawempe, NRM was confidently lying people that they have 200,000 voters registered in their NRM register for Kawempe. When the election, when the by-election was done, they scored 8,000 votes. If you have 200,000 voters registered as NRM, it is evident that the 200 will come and line up and vote the NRM candidate. It was shameful that someone was lying to the country that NRM has 200,000 voters, and the National Register for Electoral Commission was less than that number. So we are here to come and paint the true picture that the registers for NRM are flawed. They are overrated, the numbers are overrated, they have ghost numbers. That's where the violence is going to root from, because someone is going to come and is well known as an NRM candidate, an NRM supporter, and the register is telling him you're not registered here, and you're going to see names being read when the people are not there. Let me give you an example of Nakasongola, where there are so many farms there. People have farms there and bring people from Zombo, from Busoga, from far west. They come and work in those big farms. When time for lining up comes, huge trucks fail those people. And those people have just come, just temporarily to work in those farms. Casual workers are in lines, ready to line up behind a candidate who has given them money. That's where we're going to see real violence, because these registers are just overrated. The numbers are just total lies, and we have seen it. So as today, we are going to observe real fights, because the registers are going to have members who have not been there, and the ones that are really village members there are not in the register, and it is where all violence erupts from. It is actually very disappointing when I see, for example, for me, Nakasongola, I have seen a candidate who hires all the cars in the district, all the cars, 200 cars, do a procession.
Nakasongola has 200 cars.
I'm giving an example, like 200 taxis. Of course, we don't have so many cars, but the available taxis,
all right.
One candidate hires all of them, does a procession.
Okay.
But Nakasongola, as a district very close to Kampala, electricity can go for a whole week, a whole month. We have Lake Choga, where we expect clean water to be pumped, to be distributed in the district. But when it is time for drought, people are sharing dirty water with animals. But a candidate, actually 2 candidates, have spent over $1 billion in just 1 month of these primaries. It's very disappointing.
Very disappointing indeed, and of course that comparison has been ably made. Let me seek your reflections on the political maker for the national resistance movement. And many times we've had stories in selected areas within the Luweero Triangle where the aspirations of those that collaborated, facilitated and supported the struggle between 1981 and 1986 do not really speak well of what has happened, and continue to express disappointment and dismay at what government has done. Do you think these particular primaries will be an opportunity for us, observing from the outside, to see exactly what is on the ground?
I wish it could. It certainly is not going to. But just very quickly before I come to that, and if I do miss it out, please remind me. Very, very important one, because today it's important we make these points. As a future really for other political organizations, including NRM of the future, I want to repeat something I said earlier. I just thought I should repeat it. In the 1980 general elections, which was the last free and open, fair, multi-party democratic election that took place in this country, I was young enough but old enough to see. In the primaries, and I'm emphasizing it because of the mess we have today, I'm not quite sure that I saw in my Nagongera a kind of madness for primaries and a kind of madness in general elections like we see today. What happened? And yet beyond that post, that government went ahead and delivered. I also say that some of my experience in other countries, Ugandans, and particularly young Ugandans, need to wake up and recognize that when you're being shortchanged, it's your future which is being sucked. It's absolutely possible to conduct primaries in a town hall with sheets of paper just folded, primaries for parliamentary seats. You don't have to print these things. You know, when there's integrity, when there's a culture of good winners and particularly good losers, and Mr. Museveni was a terrible loser in 1980, hence where we are, people don't know how to lose. And people also are very irresponsible winners. If there is that, Chris, in Busolwe, and all of us know ourselves, and we come together as a parliamentary constituency and we see it, and we debate in a local town hall, perhaps a primary school hall or a compound, go through this process and do those things, it will happen. You really don't need this madness of resources. Parliamentary constituency leaders should have the capacity. The only difference in 1980 was that the person supervising Busolwe would have to be a member who has come from maybe Nakasongola or Luweero or Kawempe. The person supervising would come from outside that district. And that's really all. So important. So come back to the messy Luweero. I have said this again and again and again. Every time I pass via Luweero, I ask, where are the skyscrapers that NRM has built in Luweero? And so therefore that the people of Luweero, who are the makers of this regime, subjected them to the terror in down there? Not there. Had those skyscrapers been there, the issues being raised would not be there, because partly there's economics and linked to politics at the center. But quickly...
Just to be clear, you are suggesting Luweero ought to be like Kampala,
if it's the maker of NRM, then some of those
so Mecca is a mockery.
Posh houses.
They are mocking us.
Some of those posh houses that the owners of Sembabule have that look like hotels should be in Luweero, in the very least, and they are not there. And it's an important point. But I want to link that to Nakasongola. I travel And I pass by Nakasongola. That's why I'm very pleased to be here. So now I know where I can stop over and have a cup of tea, including Ugandan coffee, I hope. Do you know what? You look through that place, and you look at people actually lining up for water at particular times. And you look through the madness of being able to travel really between the journeys, especially from the military prison, the military base, to Lake Kyoga. You will be lucky. Twice in that place, including with my nieces and nephews coming from abroad, we were worried we were not going to get stuck and not get the ferry. Now, that's infrastructure. So, Nakasongola is the other extreme end, the underbelly, if you like, of Luweero in a particular way. So it's extraordinary. What took these guys to Luweero was an alleged irregularity in the election that took place. But Mr. Museveni, after Luweero, after the alleged irregularity, did not go to a court in Mbarara. My distant friend. He didn't go to a court in Mbarara. He came to Luweero. Now, after going to Luweero, over 40 years, we need to have created an enabling environment in which there's a fine judiciary, a fine policing system, a fine system that delivers people's grievances economically, socially, and politically. And when there's a judicial process where people are dissatisfied, suppose it was the grievances within NRA, and they're not satisfied with Tango Doe's decision, they were to go to court and they know the matter is going to be expeditiously resolved. And that when you do that, you don't need to go to a camp in Kawempe to throw bombs.
Nema, Brenda, Prof. I'm sure you have some comment on the Luweero issue, the fact that the NRM primary there is also something that we should look out for. But I'll also give you an opportunity. You are the LC5 woman councillor candidate, Much India East. You have to tell the nation what the agenda is, because at the end of it all, the women prong in our body politic is one that we cannot distance ourselves from, especially in this discussion today. Women are going to be involved, first as players, because many are candidates, many are voters, but also they tend to be most of the victims sometimes.
And the most short-changed.
And most short-changed when violence, when politicking is, when it takes the day. I don't know whether there's any bold plan to ensure that the safeguards are in place for the women.
Thank you so much. The political situation in the country today is politics. Like I should tell you, it's very sad that instead of putting our minds together to serve our communities and bringing better services to our communities, it is a war between this party and this party and that party. At the end of the day, it is the community that suffers. I believe we need to focus on how do we deliver these services. The water, he said, that is not down there in Nakasongola. The women who are delivering without maternity assistance, the children who cannot access education because we do not have the schools in our communities. And I believe that should be the agenda of every politician, because politics has become a different thing. It is, people look at it like an avenue to get what they want instead of offering leadership to the community. So it is very sad that that is what politics has been reduced to. And we had to associate as politicians at times, because me, I'm a leader, I've gone through leadership training, and that is what I know how to do. Not to politic and sit here and point a finger, accuse and accuse. At the end of the day, our people do not benefit. So I come in this era to stand as a Lord Councillor for Makinja East constituency, because there is a gap in service delivery for my people. My plan is to empower women, work with the youth, better the health services, better the education services, promote talents in the young people. Young people have talents, sports, music that can be grown to be entrepreneurial. So that is why I come, to fill in that gap and ensure that my community does not remain the same after these 5 years that we're going into. So I believe every politician, every leader out there today who aspires to come into this race should come with the same spirit, should come with a feeling of transparency and the love of his people, to ensure that we live beyond parties, we live beyond colors, and we serve our people. That is my humble criteria.
On education, quickly, what would you specifically do, very quickly?
On education, I would lobby for the UPE schools or more government schools to be added in my community. We only have one UPE school, that is Kansanga Seed School, and the community is so big. It is very absurd that you walk at 8 in the morning today and find children below 15 walking around instead of being in school. So
okay.
yeah, it is very sad. So instead of playing football during day, if they could be put in schools, more training or industrial training skills, it would be very good to make sure that the young people, who are over 70% of the population, are put to use and their skills are grown to make sure that they contribute to the economy.
Brendan, Emma, many thanks. I'll be giving Ivan Chune an opportunity later to also roll out the manifesto. I would be remiss if I don't. But first, let's